Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome to the market update. Today's discussion is predominantly going to be focused on Ethereum, but I want to start off with highlighting exactly where Bitcoin is, just for context purposes of recognizing price action-wise as well as structure-wise, how Bitcoin is giving us an idea of how the crypto markets are positioned. But Ethereum is probably the focal point of today's discussion because Ethereum itself has outperformed Bitcoin by a significantly wide margin, as you could see, since the June bottom. So if you look at my chart here, the bottom here was placed in June for a majority of alts. And since then, Bitcoin currently stands about a 5% up move from that low, which is quite sad in my opinion. But if you look at Ethereum, it's up 50% since basically that June low. So what does that tell us about the market contextually? Well, these two, Ethereum and Bitcoin being the biggest market cap assets, tell us that Ethereum right now has a clear advantage in terms of catching the bid in the market, as well as sort of chewing through the sellers in the market. And that is predominantly based on the fact that we have a clear narrative, a clear reason for people bidding Ethereum, which is the Ethereum 2.0 or Ethereum merge, as they call it. If you want to read more about the merge, you can follow us on Substack, alphatrades.substack.com. And my Substack is known as In the Money. Ethereum 2.0 is the article that we wrote a few days back. Make sure you'll check it out. It'll give you a good idea of why exactly Ethereum merge could be the central discussion of the crypto space, for the coming weeks or coming months ahead. The other reason why we want to be able to look at Ethereum, not only from the merge perspective and the price perspective, is just the fact that if you look at just relative strength of Ethereum versus other alts, right? Or if you want to look at a comparative basis of how Ethereum looks versus BTC, this is how it looks like, right? This is the bottoming that happened in June, and then this is Ethereum versus Bitcoin since then. So I believe that the best looking chart right now to give us an understanding of how the crypto market looks is Ethereum and not Bitcoin. So as we focus on Bitcoin, or I'm sorry, as we focus on Ethereum, here's one thing that you need to note. As the merge is coming about, right, obviously there's going to be fundamental changes in the merge, which you could find in this article, this newsletter that we wrote. But the other thing that you could find regarding the merge is how it's going to impact people's ability to want to park their Ethereum and not want to sell it, simply because your staking yields as well as rewards that you may get for parking your Ethereum would be greater and more safe, if you will, just parking your Ethereum into these staked vaults. Now, Lido Finance or STETH token, Rockets RETH through Volts. There's different ways to be able to park your ETH in terms of getting these rewards, these staking rewards. And this is going to remove a lot of supply pressure from the market. Additionally, what's happening also is that many people are effectively thinking that the price of ETH is going to go up, not only because people are parking their money for this staked ETH, but the overall emissions that are going to come out of Ethereum. Okay, so as you can see right here, after the upgrade, Ethereum's total issuance will likely drop by 90%, bringing a store of value appeal to cryptocurrency, right? So this is actually another cool reason why I believe that people are very bullishly betting on Ethereum. So some of the reasons, obviously, you should look into as well. Please do your own research. But these are some of the reasons why I am bullish on Ethereum. Now, obviously, all that stuff could change because guess what? The macro as of late has still not been that great. You guys remember last week, the inflation data for the United Kingdom as well as Germany came out to some of the highest inflation data points over the last 30 or 40 years. Again, not a good sign. 3 or 4 weeks ago, America also had some of its highest inflation data prints. So all these things are still brewing in the background in macro world. But why is it that crypto markets or even the stock market have been trending up over the last few weeks? Well, that's simply because more than likely, a lot of people were bearish right at the lows. The market might be going through its own bear market rally. And who knows, maybe we have one more leg up in the market before we break down. Or it's possible that maybe the news is finally baking in, whether it's inflation data, whether it's the Jackson Hole conference that's coming up this coming week. Maybe all that stuff is going to get baked into the market slowly, and maybe we've already topped. Maybe from here, the stock market reverses down because guess what? We have this conference coming up where maybe the Fed, once again, is hawkish, meaning they might start talking about raising interest rates further. They might talk about quantitative tightening. We also know that the dollar has been continuously ripping up over the last few days, and this should definitely scare you. We also know that oil prices look like they may be slowly turning around at these lows, and they may start pushing up. All these things added together add uncertainty at the very least and possible bearishness, at the very most, right? So what does this tell us, about Ethereum price action? Well, here's where I stand in terms of looking at the market right now. I believe that Ethereum BTC is still clearly telling us that we're in a local uptrend. Now, it is entirely possible that this has started to turn around and we're going to start breaking down from here. I personally think that there might be one more test where we might create maybe somewhat of a head and shoulders, and the head and shoulders could either break down from here or it'll do something like this. And maybe by September time, if things ease off and say by September, the Fed backpedals a little bit and they say, okay, we may not hike interest rates as much. Instead of 75 basis points, they may say 50. And the market might actually rally because of that. Because if the market is already expecting the worst, anything better than the worst is something that the market will take in stride, right? It'll take in stride and it will take that as an excuse to rally further. Because the other thing that I believe that the market is doing is it doesn't think that the Fed is going to continue to be hawkish. Now, I personally don't think that's smart. I actually think that the Fed, the central banks around the world, are going to be given more reason that as the stock markets of the world, crypto markets of the world, as they climb at higher highs, I think it gives the Fed, central banks, policymakers more ammo to clamp down harder on the markets because they know that from this low, a lot of that fear has been alleviated. People here are feeling a little bit better. And on the way down, right, they have a lot more room from here all the way down pretty much, till Q4 or the end of the year to decide to bring the market down and possibly to decide if they want to keep raising interest rates further, right? I think that gives them enough cushion and probably more so of a reason to hike a little bit further as a market sort of, tries to question their uncertainty. And so my thought process right now is it is way too uncertain and way too unclear to recognize that the market has already topped. I believe that there is going to be somewhat of a mean reversion move based on the last 2 or 3 days of the magnitude of this move that happened in Ethereum. I believe that, Ethereum might go back up towards 1750 or, almost as high as $1,900. And then it may decide, well, are we going to print this, head and shoulder style pattern? Or are we just going to push up here and then start to take off? I believe in the next, week or two, the market might decide. In fact, it might just come up in the next week as the Jackson Hole conference and the Fed discussions come about. Okay, so these are the things I'll be paying attention to. Data points wise, if you look at, the CFI notional open interest data regarding Ethereum, I still think Ethereum is still the talk of the town. I think the Ethereum merge is still on people's minds. I don't think that the market has decidedly topped because, hey, this is the sell the news event. It sure seems like it, right? I'm not questioning that, but the data points are not reflecting that. I'm not seeing the fact that, people are aggressively bullish or aggressively, bearish, and they're absorbing buy side liquidity. I'm not seeing that yet. What I am seeing is maybe some uncertainty, maybe some, hedges being put on. And that's reflected by how, you know, at the money, best bid, or offers are being listed right here, or option interest for put to call ratios are listed. But again, this is not stating anything bearishly to me. It's just showing me that, okay, it looks like, maybe things are calming down a little bit. Like here's, still open interest for Ethereum is still relatively high on Deribit. Open interest for Ethereum also pretty high on Deribit. Maybe rolling volume has come down a little bit, right, for Ethereum, but not as much. You can also see that call buying activity. Okay, so put to call ratios. So you can see good amount of calls being listed for Ethereum here. You can see open interest over volume ratio also still relatively doing well. Put to call ratios, again, calls relatively high still for Ethereum. And then here's some of the activity that's going on for ETH, right? Calls still banking pretty high for $3,000 for Ethereum, right? Good amount of calls going in for ETH 3K strikes. So all in all, I'm not seeing anything as such to tell me that there's a big warning scare. Obviously, the price dropping in such a hard magnitude, in a large magnitude, is definitely scary. But I'm not quite sure that this drop necessarily means that it's over. In fact, this drop can be seen as maybe a scare and getting people to close out their longs or panic out of their positions. And maybe here we build a base for ETH until the Jackson Hole conference passes. And then maybe ETH, if all is good from here, it builds a base and tries once again for 2,000, right? Maybe it double tops. I don't know. Or maybe from here, it just rockets straight up to 2,250 or all the way to 2,500. Okay. But I'm feeling bullishly on ETH right now. It's just, I'm not going to break the bank and say, all right, guys, this is 100% the bottom. And from here, we're going to go up. I do believe that there's going to be a mean reversion trade from here to 1750, maybe, 1900 high. But after that, I have no idea what's going to happen because all things are so heavily dependent on macro that it's hard to guess, right? It's almost like a coin toss, like what's going to happen. The other thing is, I know people have been talking about Jump Capital depositing a bunch of Ethereum on exchanges. And again, I don't really know how true this is. It hasn't quite been fully verified that these guys who own a shit ton of Ethereum, they're just depositing on exchanges to be able to dump ETH, headed into the merge, right? That's kind of the discussion that's going on. I'm not quite sure how true that is because I have not seen the validity of this kind of activity or people verifying that. So again, it's just something to pay attention to, right? The other way I just want to look at the market real quick is dominance, okay? As dominance continues to grind down, okay, and as Bitcoin prices, they're still doing okay. I mean, I didn't like the fact that Bitcoin broke back inside 21.7K, but it did. And it's clearly respecting like this low that we put in, maybe almost like a month ago, as well as a month and a half ago right here, these two equal lows. And once again, we're coming back to that low, right? So maybe, who knows, maybe Ethereum or maybe Bitcoin is creating a big head and shoulders here as well. But either way, maybe this thing pushes up further before it starts to break down. Or if it decides to break down, maybe it goes up here and then pushes back up, right? But what the Bitcoin dominance is telling me right now is Ethereum still is grabbing a lot of that bid. Some of the alts, like for example, I believe that Solana and maybe Atom are still of strong interest to a lot of people. Maybe Matic is also still, of a lot of interest to a lot of people based on the fact that as long as dominance stays low, as long as alts, still have an interest and a bid, these alts are probably the most attractive. The other alts that could be attractive or could be seen as attractive are Optimism, because Optimism directly benefits off Ethereum. Arbitrum, I don't think it has a token, but Arbitrum ecosystem, right? You can go to DeFi Llama and look up data points of how the Optimism network as well as Arbitrum network have grown in TVL, right? Quite significantly. You can see Optimism right here has also grown in TVL over the last, month or two as that merge news has come about. So all this is telling us is so far that Ethereum merge is still part of the conversation, right? It has not been forgotten. And if it has, and it's the, sell the news event, well, it's kind of early to tell, okay? The final thing that I want to talk about is, as I mentioned, Bitcoin dominance, right? But dominance could be seen in other ways too. Bitcoin dominance is one, and then Ethereum dominance is another, right? As you can see, like I said, Ethereum dominance is basically, you can look at Ethereum dominance as Ethereum versus total market cap or Ethereum versus BTC. Once again, I see Ethereum from the bottom here in June as a asset that's still in its local uptrend. Okay, so all that stuff is telling me right now that, okay, well, this asset is still, locally in its uptrend, and it's hard to fade that right now. It's hard to make an argument that, oh, well, Ethereum has definitely topped, and from here it's going to start breaking down. Because guess what? This head and shoulders that Ethereum had a few months ago, it broke, failed, and then popped back up. When we have a failure like this, more often than not, what happens is this failure leads to an excess push to the other side of the head. And then the market can either start breaking down from here, or from here, it's about to take off on a big rocket ship, like a moon mission. As of right now, all I can tell is this looks good. A pullback was probably necessary, maybe more than required. And maybe from here, we decide if we're going to take out the high of this head. If we take out the high of this head right here, well, then Ethereum is going to push in terms of price at a pretty high magnitude. Okay, Ethereum might at minimum get back to $2,000. Maybe it gets almost as high as 2,500. Okay. Other ways to look at the market is USDT, which is stablecoin dominance. Here's different ways to look at that. Over the last few weeks, here's what's happened to stablecoin dominance. From this particular area, again, the high in June, all the way down over the last few days, the dominance has been dropping. As this stablecoin dominance drops, that means that this is a way to assume that the market is getting out of stables and into other assets. Meaning, more than likely, it's probably some part in Bitcoin, some part in Ethereum, or probably a major part in Ethereum. And maybe some of that money is going into Atom or Solana or AVAX or Matic, or it might be going into these total value locked ecosystems of Optimism or Arbitrum. But the point is that the money is coming out of stables. So as long as the stables are kind of trending down like this, you should assume that for now, the market is looking to get positioned into alts. Once this starts turning back around and starts to trend back up, then we can maybe say, oh shit, okay, it looks like people are piling back into stables. Maybe they're, reaching back for security. Maybe they're scared the market is going to dump further. You see what I mean? So that is the kind of discussion that, we're looking at right now, which is a downtrend in stables is, in my opinion, an assumption that money is being pulled out of stables. And by the way, that's not just USDT. This is USDC as well. Why do they have the same charts? Well, both people in USDC as well as USDT are coming out of the woodwork and they're saying, all right, guys, maybe the worst is behind us, at least temporarily. And maybe we need to respect the merge. Maybe we need to respect Optimism and Arbitrum ecosystems. Maybe we need to respect that a temporary bottom might be put in. And opportunities like this, where you start seeing the market give you pullbacks, that might be dip buying opportunities, right? And again, these could be wrong too. For all we know, maybe this was the bottom in dominance. And once the dominance ticks up, that means that people might be exiting spot, exiting long positions, and Ethereum might start going down, Bitcoin might start going down, altcoins might start going down, but stable coins start going up. Okay. But for now, I have to assume that, in this particular area, we've broken down. We're starting to break down further and further in stable coins. And that means that with Ethereum merge coming up, with all the positive, news and everything coming out about Ethereum, Arbitrum, optimism, looking at the data points in terms of call buying activity, maybe some, risk reversal hedges are being put on. But nonetheless, I think there's a lot of, positivity and optimism behind Ethereum. Okay. So that's why I think right now it's better to have a more optimistic outlook on the market for upside. Like I said, upside doesn't mean from here to straight 2,200 or 3,000. It just means like you probably don't want to be shorting these lows. And if you're already short, I think it's best to cover here. I think it's best to get out of shorts. But again, not investment advice. You guys do your own thing. In our community, I've already mentioned, how I've positioned myself. You can come join our community, thealphatrades.com, hit the products page right here. For $97 per month, you get to watch me trade a challenge account day in and day out. I show you guys exactly how I'm trading. Again, not meant for copy trading. I show you exactly what I'm doing. You do whatever you want with that information. Okay. But I show you guys, what I'm doing, how I look at the market, what I'm trading, where I'm trading. I like to trade on Bitget. I've mentioned that before. You get, loyalty rewards and rewards for trading on Bitget. The link is below. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the market overall. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Please do give me a thumbs up if you like my content. Until then, take care, everybody. Good luck. I hope y'all had a fantastic weekend. And let's kick ass for the rest of the year, okay? Cheers.